second. Share screen. Good. So if we learned yesterday, remember yesterday what we were talking about? That, put this down here, that Moshe asked God, why are you torturing the Jewish people? And God said, Moshe, listen, calm down. You have to acquire the attributes of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. God is saying, I chose you, I value you, you're the one that's going to take the Jews out of Egypt, but you have a little bit something to learn. The very fact that you asked this question shows that there's a little bit something that you have to improve. Namely, what you, Moshe Rabbeinu, your whole thing is intellect, understanding. According to understanding, you're right. It doesn't really make any sense why I'm doing this to the Jews. But you have to take the attribute of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. What's Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? They were in more emotions. They had love, fear, balance, faith, want to call it, in me. And therefore, they weren't so intellectual. They didn't have so many questions to ask. And not only that, they had other good qualities, namely what emotions deal with outside. They were interested in outside of the world, like Abraham, spreading godliness. And also they were men of action, right? You, Moshe, up to now have been a shepherd. You're not really so involved in action in the world. And you have to take those attributes. And after Matan Torah, we see that that's really what happened. That Moshe did also add these attributes of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov to his attribute of pure, holy intellect, namely that he was outgoing and that he became a big man of action. Not only that, because of that, at Mount Sinai, there was revealed the essence of God, a level of godliness which was not revealed previously. It was revealed to the lowest levels, to this world. This is the Horah, this is the teaching for all the Jews. Shezayna Dachfaran, there are all sorts of different types of Jews. There are Jews which are called Roshechem, Shivtechem, the heads of the Jewish people. There are Jews that are simple Jews. Meant men by the Elyonim, we desire from the high Jews, the Jews that are the great rabbis, the ones that know the Torah very well, the Hechsra Bali Madregas, the highest levels, that they should go down below. That's what God did in Mount Sinai. That it says that He brought godliness down to this world, and He elevated from the world up. There's another sikh of the Rebbe. We'll see this in Parshas Yisro. It says you can see at Mount Sinai that the highest levels came down to the lowest, and that the lowest levels came up. How? Because what are the 10 commandments? First of the 10 commandments is, I am God, your God. I am God. The deepest secrets of Kabbalah are contained in that. The true oneness of God, that's the source of all of these worlds that we just talked about, and all these secrets and gematrias and permutations and levels. And that's Anochi, the essence of God. That was what was revealed in the Holy of Holies, the essence of God. Where did God reveal it to? To people that afterwards you have to tell them, don't kill, don't steal, don't. And it was the highest of highs. The essence of God was coming down to people that you had, to murderers, potential the liars and cheaters and rapists. Lo tirtzach, lo tignov, lo tinov. Right, telling to the lowest people. On the other hand, these lowest people, they were elevated to the highest levels. These lowest people, God was telling them this tremendous high level, showed them that He had tremendous faith in them. So it says that we should take the same lesson. That was what God was telling to Moshe. Moshe, go down from your high intellectual level. Be like the Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. That's what it means. The highest levels should go down below. They should occupy themselves with other Jews, even with those Jews that are just even Jews that are just wood choppers and water drawers. By these lowest Jews, by the Nidrichser Bali Madrega, by the Jews that are the simplest Jews, they don't learn, they don't, right? We demand from them, Yalu Lamaila, they should go up to the highest levels. They sollen learn Torah, they have to learn Torah. Nit nor Torah, Hanigla, not only the revealed Torah, but also the inside of the Torah. That's what Chassidut is for, so that even the simplest people can learn deep ideas and even the deepest, and make it practical, these ideas of Kabbalah. Like we just finished learning the breaking of the vessels, Atzilus. Month by Zaynit, nor this demands not only just to do the commandments and to just be through with it, but to do Hidr mitzvah, to do the mitzvahs with a special way and a deep way, connecting to the Creator. By Yed and Yin, by every Jew is demanded, Kol Chelev LaHashem, all of the best things you have, give to God. What does it mean? All is the best kochos, the best powers that you have, Zal er einem, and you should give to God. As the Torah, that your Torah and your mitzvah should be the best. When oich bayim sug, and also the highest Jews themselves, was bechlalos in general, Zayin and Zay, they are people who sit and learn Torah all the time. We demand from them that they should go down. You should deal with the world, and especially use your intelligence. Should be a way, and should also be in your intelligence. Should also be a little bit of what's called Kabbalat Ol, accepting the yoke and not asking questions. Be freer to read, like we said before. And there has to be this aspect of I don't have to know the answers. I can ask questions, but it's not the essential thing in my soul that's my connection to God, is the answers to my questions. That's what God was telling the Moshe. Good, you asked the question, very good. But you should know that Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, they didn't ask any questions. Right? I did them terrible things. And nevertheless, they didn't ask any questions. All right, in one way, it's good. Now you're going to get the Torah. Asking questions is a very good thing. But you also have to have Kabbalat Ol, accepting the yoke. That has to be the basis of your Judaism. That I'm serving God even if I don't get any answers, even I don't understand everything, even what God tells me to do is the opposite of my nature. That's the essence of Judaism. That, by the way, is one of the reasons why Mashiach is going to be called a king, Melech HaMashiach, because he's going to tell people to do things that are totally opposite what their nature is, even their Jewish nature. He's going to tell people to do things that are totally opposite what they understand according to Torah and everything. We see the big enemies of King David were tremendous Torah scholars. They found ways. Yeravam ben Nevat, these people that went and made the golden calf, these were genius Torah scholars. There's nobody like that today. They found ways, according to the Torah, to excuse everything they had. So they were sure of themselves. At one time, all of Israel was against King David. He only had like 500 men with him. And thus, therefore, it's the whole thing is you have to have this quality inside of yourself, as well as asking questions. And as I repeated that 15 times, asking questions is good, but it doesn't depend on the answers. Your Judaism does not depend on if you get an answer to the question or not. You believe in God and you accept whatever God says is true. And thus, this power of joining both up and down, the highest levels with the lowest levels, by them, which will God, and dem koach, and the power to join both opposite, the opposite poles, the highest levels of Jew and the lowest level of Jew, the highest level of godliness with the lowest level of the world. Every Jew has received this yid durch dem was der Eibishter, by received this by means of the fact that God told Moshe Ada Yom Acharon. He said that he gave him this power until what's called the last day. In the Torah, it says, Adayam Acharon, that Israel will come to what's called the last sea, Yom Acharon, the boundaries of Israel. But it's also, as the rabbi says, means a Yom Acharon, until the last day. The rabbis say, Adayom Acharon, the last day, that God had given Moshe the power to give to all the Jews the ability to join together the highest levels and the lowest levels, and to raise the lowest levels to the highest levels. God showed Moshe all of the Jews and all of the generations until Mashiach, was like is known as Maros Einayim Shel Tzadikim, the seeing of the eyes of the Tzadikim, the Riyah from a tzaddik, that the seeing, when a tzaddik sees something, he looks at something, it empowers that thing. Poilt, it gives a power. Und durch them, by means of this, that Moshe had seen all the Jews, me and you, Oich the Yidden, even the Jews from the heels of the Mashiach, this gives the power to each and every one of us to join the highest and the lowest. So if you look at yourself and you realize, wow, I'm so low, I'm terrible. I mean, in a way, the religious Jews are much lower than the non-religious Jews. Why? Because a non-religious Jew, he does something wrong, he doesn't know any better. He doesn't know any better. He has a religious Jew does something that's wrong, even the most minor thing, right? A non-religious Jew even does the most major thing. So he doesn't know anything, right? He's just swept away by his passions or whatever. He doesn't know. The Torah says, God says, doesn't make any difference to him, right? It's not even a. It's like saying that it says in a telephone book in Hong Kong or something. He doesn't know it. But a religious person, we take the Torah seriously. If we do, God forbid, something that's not wrong, even the smallest thing, you can't get any lower than that. It says, if you look at yourself and you see how low you are, you should know, listen, you have the power from Moshe Rabbeinu to take the lowest things and raise them up. And similarly, if you see a Jew that's totally far away from Judaism, doesn't know anything, and you know a little bit of Torah, you can say, well, how can I possibly elevate this person? I can't convince him. He says, no, you have the power to go down. You have the power to go down and to elevate. The Hanaga, and this joining, which is called joining intellect and emotions, this is what's going to bring the redemption. In all of the 4 languages of redemption, like it says, gebracht weiter, which was brought later on in the portion, just in a couple of sentences after the beginning of the portion. Und man gita rois, the Alam Mitzrayim then will go from all of, not just Mitzrayim, but all the Meitzarim, all limitations and boundaries. Because until the highest level of the days of going really out of Egypt, the true Egypt, by means of Mashiach Tzidkenu B'Korov Mamash. Okay, that's the end of that Sikha. Today is Rosh Chodesh Shvat. This, what we just talked about before, is connected to Rosh Chodesh Shvat. Like it says in the book of Deuteronomy, right near the beginning over there, it says, Ba'ashtei asar yom hachodesh ve'echad lachodesh, on the 11th month. What's the 11th month? Shvat. Be'echad lachodesh, on the first day of the month. Hoyel Moshe began, was willing when he be'er as a Torah, he explained the Torah. What did Moshe do? What did Moshe do? It says they were at the boundary of Egypt, right? They were the boundary of Egypt. When did they go? I'm sorry. They were the boundary of Israel. They were the boundary of the land of Israel. They finished all their journeys in the desert, and they were the boundary of Yarden Yerecho. They were at the boundary going into Israel. Moshe was not going to go in with them. So he explained to them the whole entire Torah. When did they go into Israel? When did they go in? A little bit more than 2 months later, on the 10th day of Nisan, they went into Israel. That was the first one they went into Israel. Now we're on the first day of Shvat, like 2 months before they went into Israel. On the 11th month, the 12th month is Adar, the 11th month, the first day of the 11th month. It says Moshe explained the whole Torah. What did he explain the whole Torah? When Chazal Zag explain, as in them tug, and then in that day, Rosh Chodesh Shvat, had Moshe Rabbeinu Iber Gezakt. He said the Torah in 70 different languages. L'chaora to leave us. Why did Moshe had to do such a weird thing like this? I mean, he's speaking to the Jews. What does he have to speak to all the Jews and tell them like Swahili and whatever it is, Kafkazi? All the Jews are all together. They all understand Hebrew. Speak one language. Speak their language. No, 70 languages. Alle Yidden haben doch dann geredet nor Lashon Kodesh. The Jews only spoke Hebrew. Lashon Kodesh. Und sie seien gegangen and einzunehmen, they were going to now conquer the Ein and Dreisik, the 31 kings in the land of Israel, in an oath in such a way as Loti Yechiyat al Neshama. The idea was that they were supposed to eradicate everybody. So there wasn't going to be anybody speaking the language. As to leave Vemen hat men gedarft Eber gezogen the Torah. If so, 70 languages, what did the Jews have to hear? First of all, they didn't understand it. Second of all, even if they did understand it, so who are they going to tell it to? They're supposed to go into the land of Israel, and either the non-Jews are supposed to leave, or the Jews are supposed to kill them. That was what it was back then. I mean, now there's not the same thing now, but that was a direct commandment from God. In any case, there was nobody left to speak any language except for Hebrew. Unafilu oib men had the shoin ya gedarftan, and even if you did have to teach them these 70 languages, hadach as gekantan, and under someone else could have done it, not Moshe Rabbeinu alone, right? Bring on a language expert, and he could teach them all. Was by him is dach yeder rega geven yezer Moshe. Every instant of Moshe was tremendously precious. It says that the day right before he died on Zion Udder, that day he wrote 13 Sefer Torahs. So we see how much Moshe can accomplish in just a very short time. I mean, a normal sofer to write a Sefer Torah, it takes him, I don't know, a half a year. It takes a long time to write a Sefer Torah. Moshe wrote 13 of them in one day. So you see how precious every instant of Moshe, how powerful every moment of Moshe. Now Moshe is standing and during a cup explaining 70 languages, the whole Torah, 70 times in 70 different languages. Ubafrat, and especially Nachim Azoizman, in such a time as a Rosh Chodesh, which is Hecher from Yom HaMaisa, especially Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh used to be like celebrated more than it is now. There were special offerings brought to the temple, and the people used to rest on the day. Biz as Yesh Nagu Nitzutan and then Tag Kain Malachad. Some people had the custom not to do any work, and especially women, they didn't do any work on this day. Moshe had nothing better to do on this day than to explain the Torah in some sort of Mandarin or who knows what type of languages there are in the world. And for them, the Aztecs and the Incas, there's all these weird people. They have these languages. For them, Dora Flaga, in the generation which was the generation of the destruction of the Tower of Babel. And remember, this is that all the people. Where did all these languages come from? You ever think of this? Where did all the languages come from? So it's really a pretty big, amazing thing, where languages come from. But here you have people. Let's say Germany is right next to France, and the language is totally different. So there's all sorts of explanations that this guy conquered here and he conquered over there, and how it's. But the languages are totally different. You just have a little boundary over there, and these people speak Romantic language. They speak a Germanic language, and not so far away from they speak the Slavic language. Where did all these languages come from? Where did all they come from? So there's all sorts of theories. The professors have theories, but according to Judaism, all of them came from the Tower of Babylon. It says before that everybody spoke Hebrew. That was the language. And then God, in order to whatever the reason it was, we learned the mimer about that, if you remember, that he wanted to make this discord between the people. As long as there was peace, they could do whatever they wanted to. As soon as there became discord, then the whole thing fell apart. It says, before the Torah Flaga, everyone spoke Lashon HaKodesh. Before this Tower of Babel, everyone spoke language. Nor from them the hate, but the sin of the Torah Flaga, that they wanted to build a big tower, is always going to come, and it came out a separation and a division and distinction, different languages. That people didn't know the other person's language. There were verschiedene Abteilen Lachshana, so there were different languages. Hepech from Achdus, the opposite of holiness, and the unity of holiness. Like we say, God is one. Jews, Goy Echad, the one nation, Zayin Mamshech, they, through the Torah, God, one God into the earth. That's what we just finished learning, right? With Moshe, with Paro. He wanted Paro to understand that God is the only real existence. As Oich in Eretz Agashmi, that even in the physical world, this physical world should be unity, right? The one God is creating everything that there is. God wants everything to be here. He wants everything, but it's God that's creating it. And nothing has existence except for God's creative power. That's the idea of oneness. But by means of this Dor HaFlaga, by means of the generation of the Tower of Babel, it's called the generation of the dispersion, Aflaga. Had Mored, there came into, because what did they do? They rebelled against the oneness of God. They thought that they could build this big tower by means of magic and sorcery, and that they could do whatever they wanted. They would be separate from God. They saw that there was a big flood that was there because people went against God. So they figured the people were destroyed in the flood because they didn't know how to sin. You got to protect yourself, first of all. So they built this big tower, and they thought this would protect them. And it really would have, if there would have been peace between them. But God confused their languages, so they couldn't understand what they wanted, what the other person wanted. And they made, so that made division in the world, pirud in the world. And therefore, it came out the 70 languages. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to do by saying the Torah in 70 languages. He wanted to draw down oneness, unity, Lashon HaKodesh, something like what we learned in the Mimer, right? That the serpent really came from the staff. The same thing, all these 70 languages really came from holiness. That was their real source. And Moshe wanted to reunite them again. Oichem, the Eretz, even the place where there is separate 70 languages, even there should be felt that God is one. I remember the Rebbe said a lot of times that Israel is in the United Nations, right? And the United Nations, they always want to take away the land of Israel from the Jews. They want to divide it up. They say the Arabs, they have the right. And the Rebbe said, now is your chance. You Jews, you're God's people. And God gave the land to you. There's no better indication of the existence of God and the power of God than the land of Israel. Here you have a land, and God gave you the land. That's your right. Stand up in the United Nations. Tell all of the nations in the world that there's one God. God creates them. God creates the whole world. He creates it all the time. And God gave us the land of Israel. Say it. Right? Nobody ever said it. The only one time that somebody did was Bibi Netanyahu. He did say it. And what happened to the United Nations? They stood and they gave him a standing ovation for a long time. And then he came back to Israel and he gave away Shechem to the Arabs for no reason, just gave it away to them. Anyway, but he did say it, and there was a tremendous, effect. The effect didn't last long, but at least he did say it. That's what Moshe wanted to do by the und das hat gemusst getan werden, and this had to be done through Moshe. Why? And nobody else could do it. Only Moshe, for two reasons. Only Moshe can make this unity. Why? Because das is their oiftu from Matan Torah. This is the whole purpose of Matan Torah. The purpose of Matan Torah was not only the Jews and only we're going to go to heaven and we're going to get the land of Israel and that's it. Forget us. Leave us alone. Don't touch us. You better watch out. That was the opposite of what Matan Torah is. Matan Torah was not to separate the Jews from everyone else and let everyone else go to hell. That was not the purpose. Exactly the opposite. Is that the Jews, as del Zayin, these kalus from Elyonim betachtonim, the whole purpose of Matan Torah was, the giving of the Torah, was that the highest levels should come down to the lowest levels. Was therefore, God had Moshe that by im zal sein oich the inyanavos. That's why God said in the beginning of this week's portion that Moshe, you have to be like Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, they came down into the world. Moshe, you're too high up. God wanted to incorporate both tendencies in Moshe to be very high and to bring this highness down like Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov did. The inclusion of intellect with emotions. And because of that, this only Moshe could do. Because Moshe was higher, he was a higher level. He was from this higher level of intellect, the essence of intellect. Therefore, he could come down into the 70 languages. Only he could bring it down, because that was the whole purpose of Moshe, to bring the Torah down to the world, to bring godliness into the world. Nor Moshe, only Moshe can mamshich zayin achdus, only Moshe can draw down this unity of God into a low separate place. And no one else. Why? Because Varum, who can bring down Lamata Mata, who is the one that can bring down to the lowest of lowest places? Only the person that's the highest. Kiyadua, the mashal, like it's known, the example, the, how do you say, the, excuse me, comparison to explain, if you want to explain a very deep idea to, zu aggressoren under a Mittler Talmud, if you want to explain, as Masbir sein a Seichel zu aggressoren under a Mittler Talmud, in order to explain a high idea to a genius or to an intelligent pupil, a normal teacher can do this. But to explain something very deep to a very small and ignorant pupil, right, that has a low IQ, can davka nor gor a groiser, only a tremendously wise person can do this. A wise person, which is a wise person, which is not the greatest wise one of all, he cannot bring down high ideas to a low pupil. Can't bring them down. A truly wise person, right? There's people that know Kabbalah and they know these deep ideas, but they can't explain it to a simple person. To bring these deep ideas of Kabbalah down to simple people, it has to be somebody like the Baal Shem Tov or like the Rebbes, like Mashiach. Only those people can bring these ideas in a practical way to the lowest people. We're not talking about in a false way to water down the ideas, and that the ideas aren't even accurate. An inaccurate way anybody can do. To bring down the highest ideas to the lowest people, only the greatest people can do it, and that's Moshe. Oiber veta ya. And if you would try to do it, that the tipuster from the seichel verleuert gehen in seine raid. If a normal person tries to do it, to bring down the high ideas down to the lowest, as the depth of the idea will be lost in his speech. So only the highest person can bring down high ideas to the lowest places. And Moshe, he was the highest. Zoy is also the Nimshal. Then Moshe Rabbeinu, only Moshe Rabbeinu, he could bring down and bring down the Lashon HaKodesh, which its source is very high, into the 70 languages. So that was the whole idea of God telling Moshe, the reason you're asking why am I making the Jews suffer is because you are pure intellect. The Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they had bigger tests and they didn't ask any questions. But on the other hand, they didn't have the high intellect that you have. Moshe, you have to incorporate in your personality both aspects, the unquestioning service of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and the tremendously deep intellect which you have. This you're going to bring down into the world, and you're going to unify the whole world. First of all, by giving the Torah. First of all, by going out of Egypt and breaking the powers of evil. And then by giving the Torah when God was revealed into the world. And then finally, by the 70 languages, that all of the nations of the world should stop their separateness and realize the uniqueness, the unnecessary separateness, and realize their true uniqueness by being aware of God who's creating them. And that's the whole point of this week's Torah portion. It's the preparation for going out of Egypt, receiving the Torah, and going into the Holy Land, and bringing Mashiach. That's what we said is the whole purpose. And now we'll learn today's Yom Yom. Today is what? The first day of Shvat. It should be our custom and the custom of all Jews to say a portion of Psalms every day after prayer. The Psalms are divided up in 30 portions, as well as there's other ways of dividing it up they're divided up into 5 portions, and there's 150 Psalms. There's one way that they're divided up into the 30 portions, one for each day. Ein b'zeh shum hefresh, there's no difference if these are synagogues of Chabad, or people that pray Ashkenaz, or they pray Polish or Sephardi. May God give them all blessings, and maybe they all be healthy in this. Because of the love of every Jew, and especially the importance of saying Tehillim in a congregation, and the inner intention of Tehillim, of Psalms, we should try with every effort we can that every religious Jew and every synagogue and every group of Jews and type of Jews should say Tehillim, prayer, Psalms. At least some Psalms, but best one of the 30 portions of the Psalms every day after prayer. Nothing as powerful as Psalms. Psalms is the only book in the Torah that's both prayer and Torah together. Prayer and Torah united together. Okay, God bless you. Today, God willing, at 3 o'clock, I might be a little bit late today because I have to make up for bringing for these kids. But today, God willing, let's make it 3:15. Today at 3:15, we will learn Chumash for at least a half an hour with commentaries, different commentaries. God bless you. Have a good day with Mashiach now. Chodesh Tov. Have a good month.